All right, hey everybody, how's it going? Where we left off, I had just created a the hub section of our hub and spoke network. So we should have a hub network now. That hub network has VNet peering established between our hub and then our dev, QA, and production networks. And we also have a working site-to-site VPN connection you can see now. Uh, I don't really feel like showing my router because everyone's got a different, router at their house or at their location, and I just don't feel like blurring out any of the sensitive information that's on my router. So, for that reason, you'll just have to take my word for it that it's connected, and you can see the status here. So, let's hop back over to the dashboard and take a look at my hub resources. So, it's mainly just networking stuff here right now. So next up in the project, what we're going to be doing is trying to set up an actual Databricks workspace. And what we're going to do is think about our game plan, which is to have a metastore sitting kind of in the central hub. And this is where your data engineers would most likely work. So this is kind of our main resource. And then we'll have our dev, QA, and prod workspaces too. So if you want to, you can have your workspaces follow this dev, QA, and prod CI/CD pipeline build. These also could just as easily be used for various teams. So really, however you want to do that, with this centralized metastore assignment being assigned out. Kind of what we're doing at my company is, like I said, we've got the engineers working kind of close to the data, close to the metastore, and then if we decide to branch out, different teams are going to have their own workspaces. So we have the ability, if you want to create compute resources in each one of these workspaces, but you're just adding additional cost and overhead. So the main thing we care about is the CI/CD between our data, not necessarily the compute resources. Let's see. That said, if we take a step back and we say these are the resources we currently have, I do want to point out that we're going to be setting up a VNet injected workspace. So not just a workspace, but it's going to be injected into our network so that it can communicate with our on-prem resources. There is a Terraform guide for how you can do this. So if you just search Databricks Terraform, you'll find a guide. You can take a look at the simple deployment. So this is where I picked up a lot of the notes on the networking aspects of this. So feel free to run through that. But for now, we're going to hop back over to my code. I pulled 3 items in to my code. So again, we're still in the hub subscription, and I'm going to X out of this real quick. So the first thing that I pulled in was my storage.metastore file. So I'm creating a storage account for my metastore. We're not going to use it yet, but we will use it shortly. For now, I'm just keeping this as locally redundant storage because I'm cheap and this is my personal project. I am enabling HTTP traffic only. HTTPS traffic only. The other thing that's important is hierarchical namespacing is enabled. So this helps turn it into an actual data lake. And then we're going to have the storage account as V2. I'm also going to create a storage container for my metastore. And this is just going to point back to my storage account that I just created. So I've got my storage account for my metastore there. Next up is my Databricks workspace itself. So the workspace isn't overly complicated. Give it a name. Put it with your resource group and your location. For this one, I'm putting it in the premium SKU specifically so that I can have the Unity catalog aspect as part of this project. Public network access has been enabled for this. I might disable that later on, but for right now, I'm gonna keep that enabled. If I was to disable that, then I could only access this from like VPN, for example. Let's see. What else do I care about here? The managed resource group name. If you don't name this yourself, Databricks will create one for you and give it some kind of weird name. So this helps keep your resource groups a little bit cleaner. No public IP. I've got that set to true. What else? Virtual network. This is going to be injected into my virtual network. Like I said, this is VNet injection is taking place here. These resources are part of the networking configuration that I just showed you based on Terraform's documentation. So we'll circle back to that in a minute. For the storage account, this is a unique name as well, so just think about that when you're naming it. And then I've got a depends on block here for the security group, network security group associations for the private and public subnets. So let's hop on over to the Databricks networking component. So this part right now, we're not really using firewalls so much as we're using network security groups for our permissions management. We can add a firewall to this later on and kind of do that as a little as an overlay, and use that for some additional permissions management. But firewalls are kind of expensive, so I don't want to run my bill up too much. So we'll do a demo of that later on. But for starters, for starting out, we're not going to do that. So in this section, what we're going to do is we're going to build a security group first. This security group is for Databricks, which is my Databricks network security group. I've got several rules here, and in addition to my network security rules, I've also got a rule of thumb. Whenever possible, I like to create the groups by themselves, and then I like to add the rules as a secondary thing, because with Terraform, if I change a rule, that rule number behind the scenes could change. So like the ID of the group potentially could change. It could just be a quick rebuild. But then sometimes those rules can be coupled to other resources like my workspace. It could break my workspace. So I like to keep these rules as add-ons rather than built-in pieces. So it's just, you might see someone that extends this security group and puts these rules in there. I don't do that. So let's see. So we've got my rules here. So the first one is for allowing Azure Active Directory. So this is an outbound rule. Let's see. I'm doing an allow. It's TCP. It's for port 443. These are kind of known names that makes it easy to navigate within Azure. It's just my resource group and then the security group name. So not a whole lot going on there. Got something else for the Azure front door as well. That's a known name by Azure. This is for Databricks on-prem, so this is a little bit special for my use case. So this is my source address prefix. So this is my on-prem address space. So I've got a private IP address, and just one thing to remember when you're setting up your IP ranges is that you want these IP range addresses to not overlap. So everything in Azure is going to be 10 dot something, and then my on-prem network is 192.168.1.0/24. So it's just using that final octet there. So that's my on-prem rule. So I'm just basically allowing that to connect. Let's see, my Azure subnet from Databricks public. So this is one of those Databricks subnet delegation pieces. So we're just saying, hey, this subnet is going to be associated with Databricks. It's going to be in our hub VNet, and then the address prefix. I'm just going to circle back to this. So if you remember, I went ahead and I predefined what I wanted my IP ranges to be. So this is kind of where I'm grabbing some of these IP ranges. So we just pointed out the on-prem address space, and now we're looking at these other VNet or these other subnet address spaces as well. They're all centrally located there, so I can easily find them in one spot. So here's my public subnet for Databricks. Let's see, I've got my subnet association now to that group, network security group association, I should say. Then I'm just kind of creating this blank, this like empty endpoints list that we're going to use here in a minute. Next up is the private subnet for Databricks, and we're going to do another delegation for this as well. Kind of same deal. I've already kind of pre-specified the range for that. It's going in that same VNet, and then I'm creating a service endpoint for this, which I think references that list that I just showed you a second ago. It's kind of an empty list. And similarly, we're going to do an Azure subnet network security group association, this time with the private subnet. So we're just connecting that subnet ID with the security group. Let's see. So now we're going to do a private link subnet for this resource. So it's going in the same resource group, same VNet, and then this time we're just doing that local private link subnet address prefixes block or whatever. Again, we've got that over here, so it's that kind of big, long, nasty name, but that way we know exactly what it is. Hop back over to, where were we? My Databricks network. All right, so now I need to create a private endpoint for this, for the UI, API. Just give it a name. Location resource group stays the same, and this one's going in that, I guess it's the PL subnet that I just created a minute ago, which is for the private link. Now we've got a private service connection. So again, all this information, most of this information is in their deployment notes or in their guide as well. So it's a lot, but they've documented it pretty well. So at this point, where are we? We've got the private subnet connection. And then we're just saying, like, what are the sub resources? So again, it kind of walks you through this. I am pointing back to the Databricks workspace though that I'm creating in this. So that part's a nice little stateful feature. Private DNS zone. That's another thing we have to create for this with the private DNS zone IDs. So we have that resource that we just created up there a minute ago as well. The Azure private DNS zone for the DNS UI API. We've got the private link for that. Where are we? I think we're at the tail end of this now. And then we've got the private DNS zone for the virtual network link. So we've given that a name. We're pointing to the same resource group we pretty much always use. And now we're pointing to the Azure private DNS zone that we just created up here. So we're just yanking that name out. So you just give it the name, but I'm just kind of pulling it out from that. And then we're connecting this to the Spoke VNet. So we say Spoke VNet, but realistically this is Azure Virtual Network.vnet.id. So in this case, we're in the hub network. So I've kind of copied and pasted some of this code into a couple of places. So this says Spoke, but we'll just say hub VNet. Okay. All right, web auth private endpoint, and this is the final piece for this. So Azure RM private endpoint auth. This is for authentication. Same location as our main resource group. Same resource group name that we're pointing back to. This one's going to go into that private link subnet that we just created. So it's going to be for all of our private resources or our private endpoints. Then we've got a private service connection. So it's your just your private link for that, I guess. Your private link endpoint. And we're pointing it to our workspace ID. And what else do we have? Then we've got our private DNS zone with our private DNS zone IDs. So yeah, that's a lot, I know. We'll just make sure to save that one change. And we'll say Terraform apply. So at this point, what we are doing, it's going to take a few minutes to apply this. At this point, if we look at this, we are really, we're really just doing this piece right now. So if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, we got these 4 pieces all together. And then really we've got a 5th piece of creating the metastore on top of our Databricks workspace. And then we got, 6, 7, 8. So we got some other pieces for the metastore assignment where we say, hey, we've got a metastore. Now we need to assign it out. So we haven't really done any of that yet. We're mainly just at this first kind of metastore storage account creation, and then the workspace that metastore will go to. Okay, so it's reading this now, so let's give that just a minute. All right, so there's 19 resources here, 3 to destroy. I'm kind of curious what it says it's going to destroy. I don't think I've destroyed anything. All right, so we've got some hubs potentially. Azure Virtual Network peering to the remote network. Oh, you know what? I think this is because I've got a depends on block. Um, Let me try to remove my depends on block. So if I go to my spoke, no, not my spoke. If I go to my plans, my hub, and then this, if I say that, we'll do a save all. All right. So remember I said I did this as an apply, but if I say X, then it's canceled. So it turns it back into a plan. So Terraform apply. Let's try this one more time. I really don't want to have to destroy those VNet peerings. I'm going to scroll back up to that for just a minute. So the Azure Network peering dev to hub must be replaced. I don't understand why on earth that would need to be replaced. The only thing I can think of is that I had this module where it depends on it, and it's basically saying that, hey, we have to rebuild this module. So that's the only thing I could think of here. So we'll give this just another minute to refresh. Okay, so 16 items to create, nothing to destroy this time. So I'm good with that. We'll say yes. So again, this is kind of why this first section is a little bit of a pet. So depending on, if you're building this all out at once or step by step, like incrementally, this sort of thing can come back to bite you. So, so I'm just going to comment that out. It's kind of the same as, deleting it, removing it. Let me go ahead and just add a comment so I don't forget this later on. We'll say added initially added depends on block because the hub VNet did not exist and was being created, and we'll say in the module, in the module. So we're still adding to this same plan with items in the module, and don't want to have to we'll say, I guess, we don't want to have to replace those VNet peering connections each time. All right, so important thing here is be kind to yourself and take notes. So you don't have to do it, but I like to take notes so that I don't shoot myself in the foot down the road. So what do we say? We have so we're still going to be adding this same plan with the items in the module, and we don't want to have to replace those VNet peering connections each time. So I went back on the second apply and just commented out the depends on block, since we know it now exists. Okay, so that gives me a little bit better peace of mind. So again, if we're doing this as like, true CI CD work, whatever that, some people might frown upon that, but again, this is the first network setup steps between the hub and spoke and those initial VNets. It's kind of like kind of a pet step anyways, so we're not really going to be messing with that too much in the future. So hopefully this will apply, and since it is applying right now, it'll probably take a few minutes. So I'm going to pause this video, and we're gonna circle back and see what it looks like when it's all built up. All right, so I am back. That took a few minutes to deploy. Let's hop over to I guess to my dashboard, and we'll take a look at the resources. So like I said, all we did was we just built our workspace into the hub subscription, and we should have a new storage account here and several networking components. So got a new private endpoint, we've got a network interface for that. We have the Databricks network security group created, our Databricks workspace, which that's what we're going to take a look at in a minute. We have our private endpoint, our network interface. Again, I think all these other things were already here except for the storage account for the Metastore. Let's go ahead and open up the Databricks workspace. So I'll open this up over here. Yeah, we can see that this is a premium tier, no public IP is set as yes. It is in the hub virtual network, and we'll just go ahead and launch this up real quick. All right. So yeah, I'm here. There's not a whole lot going on here at the moment. So I just want to show you that, yeah, we do have Databricks up and working though. So this is our current workspace. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I guess I'll see you in the next one.